When I woke up, I thought I was dead. The world was upside down, blurry lights, smoke curling through shattered glass, the smell of gasoline thick in my throat. I tried to move, but every nerve screamed like it was on fire. My ears rang with the echo of twisted metal and rain hitting. What was left of the windshield? For a moment, I couldn't tell if it was still raining or if the world was crying for me. The last thing I remembered was Madison's voice, sharp through the storm. "Is he dead?" And my son's silence hanging heavier than any answer. Then everything went black. Now I was back, barely. My body felt half alive, half dreaming, caught somewhere between this world and whatever waits past it. Through the fog I saw movement, a shadow leaning over the wreck, flashlight beam cutting through the smoke. Not a cop, not Madison. Too quiet, too careful. A gloved hand reached in through the broken glass, unbuckling my seatbelt. I tried to speak, but my voice came out as a rasp, nothing but air. "Easy," the voice said, low, firm, and unfamiliar. "You're not dying tonight." The next thing I felt was being dragged out onto the wet ground, rain soaking through my jacket, mud cold against my cheek. My vision flickered, flashing between faces and light, and the sound of a car door slamming. Then silence again, just my heartbeat faint and uneven. I must have drifted out for a while, because when I came to, I wasn't at the crash site anymore. I was lying on a cot in what looked like an old cabin. Wood walls, single lamp, the smell of damp earth and old coffee. My ribs felt like they'd been rearranged. But someone had cleaned the cuts, wrapped my shoulder, even started an IV line. Whoever had pulled me out of that wreck knew what they were doing. There was a note taped to the wall above me. Only 3 words written in thick black marker: "You owe me." I stared at that note for a long time, the words swimming in and out of focus as my head spun. I didn't know who had written it or how they found me. But one thing was certain: somebody wanted me alive. And in my world, that never meant mercy. It meant purpose. I pushed myself up, every bone protesting, and whispered, "All right." You kept me breathing. Now tell me why. It took me a few minutes to get my bearings. The room was small, bare, except for the cot I'd been lying on. A table with a single lamp, and a shelf cluttered with old medicine bottles and a half-empty whiskey flask. The storm outside had passed, leaving the kind of stillness that only follows chaos. The air too clean, too quiet, like it was waiting for something to happen again. My head throbbed, my ribs ached, and every breath reminded me how close I'd come to checking out for good. I pulled myself up slow, fighting the dizziness that kept trying to drag me back down. Whoever patched me up had done it fast, rough, but with care. That scared me more than waking up alone. People don't save guys like me without wanting something. There was a fire burning low in the corner, smoke curling lazy toward the ceiling. On the table beside it sat a small metal box, old and dented, with my name scratched into the lid. That froze me. I hadn't seen handwriting like that in years. It wasn't Trevor's, it wasn't Madison's, it was Ben's. My chest tightened. I opened the box with shaking hands, half expecting it to explode with memories I wasn't ready for. And in a way, it did. Inside was a USB drive, a folded map, and a photo of me and Ben taken years ago at the county fair. We were smiling, holding 2 beers, and looking like life hadn't gotten around to kicking us yet. On the back, written in the same sloppy ink, were 4 words: "He knew too much." My mouth went dry. I turned the USB over in my hand, trying to piece together how it ended up here. If Ben had this before the crash, it meant he was still chasing leads, maybe even after I told him to back off. And if this was his hideout, then whoever pulled me from that wreck knew both of us. That made it worse, because that meant they'd been watching a long time. I stood up, limping toward the door, but when I reached for the handle, it wouldn't budge. Deadbolt from the outside, locked in. I banged once, twice, nothing. Then I heard it, footsteps crunching on the gravel outside, slow and deliberate. I backed away, grabbed the metal lamp like a weapon, heart pounding hard enough to drown out everything else. The door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside. A woman. Short hair, black coat, eyes sharp as cut glass. She looked me over, not surprised, not even curious, and just calm. "Glad to see you're still breathing," she said. I tightened my grip on the lamp. "Who the hell are you?" She smirked. "Someone who doesn't like seeing good men buried by bad ones." Her voice was cool. measured, too steady to be a stranger. She dropped a duffel bag onto the table and said, "You've got a long night ahead of you, Frank. I saved your life. Now you're going to help me finish what Ben started." I didn't move right away. Just stood there, gripping that lamp like it could protect me from whatever. Storm was about to blow through the door. She stepped closer, her boots crunching on the dirt floor. The firelight flickering across her face. She looked maybe mid-30s, younger than me, but with eyes that had seen more bad nights than good mornings. There was a scar just under her jaw, thin but deep, the kind you only get from close calls. "You knew Ben," I said, not asking, just stating it. She nodded once. Knew him, worked with him, tried to keep him from getting himself killed. Guess I failed at that last part. Her voice cracked just a little on the end, and for the first time I saw something real behind that calm guilt. "Who are you?" I asked again. She exhaled, sat down across from me and said, "Name's Claire Donovan. I was Ben's partner. Not the newspaper kind. The kind that doesn't wear a badge but still gets paid to chase the truth." That name hit me like a whisper I'd forgotten. Ben had mentioned her once, back when we first started digging into the Whitmores. "An old contact," he called her. "The one who gets her. Hands dirty when I can't." I didn't think she was real back then. Now here she was, sitting in front of me, pulling a flask from her jacket, like she'd done this 100 times. "Ben trusted you," I said slowly. "Enough to leave me this." I pointed to the box with the USB. She looked at it, then back at me. "He figured if things went south, you'd need it more than anyone. Said you were stubborn. Enough to keep digging when everyone else got scared." I laughed, a bitter, tired sound. "Guess he wasn't wrong," she smirked. "He usually wasn't." I sat down opposite her, the pain in my ribs screaming, but I didn't care. "You said I have to finish what he started," I said. "What exactly did he start?" Claire took a long sip from the flask before answering. "Project Redwood," she said flatly. My stomach turned at the sound of it. Ben was getting close to the top, and way too close. He found a connection between the Whitmore's development fund and a private intelligence firm out of DC Front Company. Contracts, ghost payments, fake land deals. Your farm was just one of dozens they used to wash money through. He was trying to publish, but someone inside the paper pulled the story before it hit print. 2 days later, his car went off the road. I leaned back, trying to process all of it. "So you're saying my family's land was part of some national money laundering operation?" She nodded. "Not just money cover-ups, arms bribes, the kind of thing people don't come back from." She reached into her coat and slid a photo across the table. My hands froze the second I saw it. A group shot taken at some fundraising gala. The Whitmore's Madison. A few faces I didn't know, but one of them, standing dead center, hand on Trevor's shoulder, made my blood run cold. A man in a dark suit, expressionless. "The same man who wasn't Bill. Who is he?" I whispered. Claire looked me dead in the eye. "That Frank is who you're really up against. And trust me, he doesn't lose." For a long time, neither of us said a word. The fire popped, the rain outside softened to a whisper, and all I could hear was my own pulse pounding in my ears. I kept staring at that photo, at the man in the suit standing behind my son, like some damn puppet master. He looked out of place, too polished, too careful. Claire finally broke the silence. "His name's Daniel Kross," she said, voice low, steady. "He runs a private firm called Helix Global, one of those black budget security outfits that does the government's dirty work when it doesn't want its fingerprints showing. The Whitmores bankroll him through their development companies. Madison's just the face, Trevor. He's the leverage." My jaw clenched so tight I could feel my teeth grind. "Leverage for what?" She looked straight at me. "For you. They knew you wouldn't stay buried. Frank, they needed a reason to keep you quiet when you came back." I felt like the room was tilting, every word she said twisting the knife deeper. "Ben figured it out too late," she continued. "He got hold of documents tying Kross's company to land seizures and offshore accounts, money, used to fund foreign ops under fake development projects. He was going to blow the whole thing open. But before he could publish, his editor got a call from a senator's office. 2 days later, his brakes failed on a straight road." Her voice cracked, just enough for the truth to sound human. "He called me that night. Said if anything happened, I'd find what I needed in this cabin. I came too late, but I guess he was still watching out for you. I ran my hands over my face, feeling the grit, the dried blood, the years of anger all fighting to break through. So my son's tangled up in something that could get us both killed, I said quietly. Not tangled, she corrected. Used. They're keeping him close because he's family. He signs what they tell him, smiles for cameras, shakes hands with the right people. He probably thinks he's doing it for the good, building homes, jobs, whatever story they sold him. But the second he stops being useful, they'll make him disappear too. Her words hit like a punch. I thought about Trevor as a kid, building toy barns in the dirt, saying he wanted to grow the family business. I'd failed him once when I left. Now he was drowning in something I couldn't fix with an apology. Claire leaned forward, elbows on her knees, eyes sharp. You've got a choice, Frank. You can run and hope they forget you exist, or you can help me finish what Ben started. But if we do this, there's no turning back. I didn't answer right away. I looked at the photo again, at that man, Daniel Kross, standing over my son like a shadow that never leaves. My hand trembled as I set it back on the table. If they wanted me dead, they should have done it right the first time, I said quietly. You saved me for a reason, Claire. So let's give them one to regret it. She gave a small nod, the corner of her mouth twitching like the ghost of a smile. Then I hope you're ready to bleed for the truth, she said. I smirked, dry and bitter. I already have. We left the cabin before dawn. The air outside was cold enough to sting, the kind of cold that bites deep and keeps you awake. Claire drove a beat-up, Ford that looked like it had been through a war, bullet dents patched with tape, dashboard cracked, one headlight dead. She tossed me a burner phone and a folded map. We can't use GPS, she said. They'll track it. We stay off main roads until we hit the city. I didn't ask which city. I didn't care. My body still ached from the crash, but my mind was burning. Every mile we drove, I felt something inside me shifting. That same hopeless arc I'd carried for years was changing shape. It wasn't guilt anymore. It was purpose. We stopped once at a diner off the highway, one of those 24-hour places that smells like coffee, grease, and lost dreams. Claire sat across from me, scribbling notes in a worn leather book while I tried to swallow down cold eggs and memories. Helix runs everything through a dummy. Corporation in St. Louis, she said without looking up. They use construction bids as cover. Ben found an encrypted folder on their servers, something labeled Redwood Terminal. He couldn't crack it. Before the crash, she slid a flash. Drive across the table. That's the copy he made. I picked it up. The metal still warm from her hand, feeling like it weighed more than truth should. If we open this, I said, they'll know we're coming. Claire smirked. Good. Let them. We hit the road again, keeping to back routes and truck paths. The sun came up slow, bleeding orange across the horizon. But neither of us spoke. Every so often, Claire checked the rearview mirror, her eyes narrowing at nothing. I caught her glancing at me a few times too, not out of doubt, but like she was measuring whether I was really ready to go all the way. When we reached the outskirts of the city, she pulled off onto an abandoned service road and parked under a bridge. We do this my way, she said. Quiet, quick. If we get caught, we don't talk ever. I nodded, my hands were steady now. Fear had burned itself out somewhere along the way. Let's finish what Ben started, I said. She smiled then, small but real, and reached into her jacket, pulling out a thin black laptop. The glow from the screen lit up her face as she typed. The sound of the keys was like a heartbeat, steady, relentless. Lines of code filled the screen. Then a file directory appeared. At the top was a single folder, Redwood Terminal.zip. Claire hesitated, finger hovering over the mouse. Once I open this, there's no undo, she said softly. I met her eyes. Then let's make it count. She clicked. The screen went black. Then a new window popped open, and I felt my stomach drop. There were videos, dozens of them, each labeled with dates, coordinates, names, senators, investors, even law enforcement. One of the thumbnails froze me cold. It wasn't Madison. It wasn't Trevor. It was Ben, sitting in a room I didn't recognize, looking straight into the camera, bruised and shaking. He started to speak. voice faint through the old laptop speakers. If you're watching this, they found me. Claire's eyes went wide. Frank, she whispered. This was recorded after the crash. The screen flickered. Ben's face replaced by static. Then a text prompt appeared in red across the monitor. Hello, Frank. Next episode. Before I Died. Episode 6. The Ghost in the File. Frank and Claire realize Ben may still be alive, and the people behind. Project Redwood are watching every move they make. Subscribe now, Machine Subphrase, and hit the bell, because from here on out, no one is safe.